Today on Cherry Pickin', we're exuding cool with a new hood. It's shaker time, baby. Perfect. That's right, today we are cutting a perfectly good hood to put a shaker scoop in it for the 69 Mach 1, which is currently sitting over there. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. My dad had collected all these parts for the 69 Mach 1. For those of you that don't remember, I bought my 69 Mach 1, how many times can I say that in this video, from my father just over a year ago actually, after selling the 1979 C10 that I won from Donut Media back in 2022. The Mustang was a dream car of mine, but my dad had actually owned it back in the 80s, sold it to an acquaintance of his, and then bought it back in about 2005, and it had been sitting for probably, almost 20 years actually. But in the meantime, as a Ford parts man, he had collected tons of parts for 69 and 70 Mustangs and Cougars more specifically, and one of the things that he collected that he never got rid of was a 69 351 shaker scoop. Now, for those of you that don't know, the shaker scoop was available on 1969 and 70 Mustangs and was basically the only ram air option available except for Boss 429s. Cougars had a ram air option, however it was not with a shaker scoop, it was with a hard mounted scoop and a hole in the hood. If you wanted ram air, this was your only option in 69. And he actually saved this one. There's actually another scoop that I was going to use because it already looked kind of nice. However, it wasn't an engine fire, and so the entire scoop was completely warped. So this one, which was just in aluminum, bare aluminum, just got painted, and actually we'll do a little back to the future situation. Go ahead, old Aaron, take it away. So we are back in time. We have to paint the scoop because I wanted to have time to cure. So we're going to paint it. Now, as you can see, this is the full shaker scoop setup. You have your top scoop piece that gets painted. You have a spacer. You also have a gasket, so to speak, that I don't have here. Then you have your mid plate and your base plate. Now, these are different from car to car, 351 Cleveland to Boss to 351 Windsor to big block 390s and 428s. They are different and it matters. We are not going to, it's moving on me. We're not going to paint any of the mid plate or base plate or the spacer. That's perfectly fine. We're actually only going to focus on this guy. So move this out of the way. Now from the factory, these scoops, as you can see, this one is pretty bare. It's been worked upon, I guess. But from the factory, these scoops were actually painted kind of a satin black. It's not a complete matte black. And on the blackout hood cars, it's actually slightly a different color. And these stripes here are actually, technically, they're supposed to be painted argent from the factory. And if you're doing MCA judging or anything like that for restorations, that would be correct. I'm just going to sand the fins down and then clean the paint off once I'm done. That's not technically MCA restoration correct, but it'll look totally fine. So this is aluminum. It is a cast piece, and we're gonna go ahead and scuff it and prep it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just use some good old Rust-Oleum satin black and some satin clear just to protect it. So let's get this thing sanded on a little bit, then we'll paint it, and then we'll go ahead and cut the hood. All right, I'm just using some 360 grit. The biggest thing is I do have to get all of the ribs clean, so I'm going to focus on that because they all have to be clean and look nice. Alright, first coat of primer sealer going on. And old Aaron's back, and we're at the present or the future, whatever you want to call it, and our scoop is painted. I actually still have to clear coat it, but you get the idea. This is the scoop. It's nice and fancy. I'm gonna try to be careful with it. Now, unfortunately, there's two pieces that are missing from this whole setup that I'm gonna have to find in the future. The first one is the snorkel. There is a very specific snorkel for the 351 Windsor, and you can kind of fudge it with any 68, 69 snorkel, so I'm told. So I'm gonna worry about that later because it's not necessary, but it does add to the look. And the other thing that's actually kind of important is the bracket for the shaker. There is a bracket that hard mounts the base of this shaker to the motor so that you get that really stiff shake, because otherwise this thing has a little bit of flex in it. It's very heavy. It may not shake as much without this bracket. So I'm probably gonna have to fab one up. I think the last one that sold for like 200 bucks, and it is literally a tiny piece of 1/8 inch steel that is folded and looped and drilled in a specific way. So I'm probably gonna make my own, but that is the shaker assembly. And so we're gonna put it back together, at least lightly. These things do have a little bit of movement in order for them to fit correctly on every car. But there's two more important pieces. One being the hood. The factory 69 Mach 1 hood without ram air came with a non-functioning fiberglass scoop. Now on very early 69s, there actually were pie cutouts, is what they call them, in the hood that allowed air to enter from the scoop. They realized very early on that it wasn't necessary to add those pie cuts. I'm assuming they only added them so that the scoop itself didn't pull the hood up, not for actual functional ram air. But I think they figured out early on, because very, very quickly into production, they realized that those pie cuts weren't needed and stopped cutting the hoods for the pie cuts. But there are a few differences with the Mach 1 standard scoop hoods that make it so that it's hard to use them for shaker scoops. The Mach 1 hoods have two holes at the very back of the hood that are cut out for the turn signals that go in the scoop. The shaker hood obviously doesn't have that, so those holes aren't there. There are also little holes for the actual scoop studs to sit in. Those are fixable, but really welding on the thin sheet metal of a hood is kind of pro work, and I'm not really up for that. Now, I have here a completely uncut hood. This is a reproduction hood. I don't know who makes it because I bought this thing secondhand for $30. That's right, you heard me, $30. I didn't pay oh God, it almost fell over, my $30 hood. I didn't pay $300, $400, $500 for this hood. I got really, really lucky, and in fact, it was actually my dad who told me to wait it out because I was gonna buy another hood for about 100 bucks at the time, but had been drilled multiple times, not only for a Mach 1 scoop, but someone also put a 429 scoop, which is an even wider pattern. And I would have to fix all those little holes and the holes for the turn signal scoop. That's a lot of metal work. I am not a pro metal worker. I waited, and about 3 or 4 days later, this thing happened to pop up, 30 bucks. And it was about an hour away. I messaged the person and said, I will come right now. And I did, and I bought it. I didn't even look at it. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night when I bought it. But it was 30 bucks. Now, it's not perfect. There are a few dents in it and some manufacturing flaws, but I'm kind of just gonna ignore those and not look at them because we have a hood. So we're gonna cut a big old hole in this, but we also have to make sure we cut/drill the hood pinholes, because you have those as well. I'm not gonna do that till it's on the car so I can actually figure out where the hood pins are, but we are gonna cut the hole. And kind of the last most important thing you need, which unfortunately is one of the most expensive if you're gonna do this on your car, is the trim ring. If you don't have a factory trim ring, you have to buy one. And this trim ring, this one little tiny piece of metal, is almost $200. They're kind of hard to get, and they only make some certain batches of them, and they're very expensive. And so this one was the one piece that I really had to take the bite on. There are some NOS ones for sale for about $1,000 if you fancy. I'm sure they fit a whole lot better, especially because some people have had issues with the stud locations on this trim ring not aligning to their factory shaker hoods. So that's something to be aware of. Not a huge deal. You can just re-drill some more holes and call it good. So basically what we have, if you want to do this to your 69 or 70 Mustang, you're going to need a hood unless you want to fix yours up. You're going to need the trim ring, and you're going to need the shaker assembly. They do sell modern shaker assemblies. They come with fiberglass bases. I think they just started coming out with metal base plate ones. They're okay. They work good. A factory one is obviously better just as everything in this old car hobby is. Factory NOS stuff tends to be a lot better. Not even NOS, just factory in general. It's better. It's made better. The metal is correct. The molds were new when they were made versus now where they've been basically used so much to the point where they're a little bit not perfect. And then the thing to cut your hood, which is the stencil. Now, I already cut out my stencil, so it's pretty much ready to go. So what we're gonna do now is clean my hood up, because it's been sitting and it's kind of dusty, and then we're gonna lay the stencil out, tape it down, and start marking. And then we get to cutting. This should go hopefully pretty quickly, but we're gonna take our time, because looking cool doesn't matter if you mess up the hole and cut it sideways. Let's get into it. All right, now my hood is kind of balanced precariously, so I'm actually gonna support it with my chair here. And I've just got some soapy water here. I'm just gonna clean this hood down. We do have to paint this hood when we're done with it. Oh yeah, just clean it all up, get all that dust off, imperfections in this reproduction hood. It ain't perfect. As you can see, there's looks like some oil staining here maybe. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not one to complain about a $30 hood, even though you hear me complaining. So, since there doesn't seem to be a lot of info on how to do this on YouTube, go ahead and show you. This is the stencil. Like I said, I already cut it out. You just got to do it like you're in first grade and cut along the lines. It does have a location for the rear of the hood, which I probably actually need to cut out. Like I said, just like in first or second grade or whatever you were held back, cut along the lines. This thing is cut, let's tape it on. Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna be battling the sun. I have one tree here that as the sun moves, it's gonna shift. So I'm trying to get this done pretty fast. Now, I could put up a easy up, but that'd be too easy. And I'm lazy. So instead, we're gonna make life harder and fight. So, we're gonna line this guy up, which at the back gets a little bit harder to do as that spear changes and disappears. Now, one of the things I'm not gonna do immediately is drill all the holes for it, because I'm actually gonna go ahead and lay the trim ring on it once we get it cut to make sure I have all the right holes. Now, you have to double, triple check these every single time, because unfortunately, quite a few years ago, there was a period of time where these stencils were actually made improperly and were oversized, and people weren't checking the hole before they cut, and a lot of people had oversized holes. That was an issue that happened probably about 2006, maybe 2007, where a batch of these stencils were accidentally enlarged. Not as much of an issue now, but still something to be wary of. It's just slightly off because the motors in the cars aren't exactly center. They're just a hair off to one side or the other. So it may look a little bit funny, but that's why we follow the stencil. Actually, put this on the side of the spear so that I can still see my center line. As I had mentioned, these studs are not perfectly in place. They are just slightly off. However, this is lining up pretty damn good. All right, I found something that kind of works. It's a little bit hokey, but it works. It's a window paint marker. It doesn't leave on a huge white line, but it does give me an edge, and that's really all I need. All right, let's carefully peel this up, because if I have to reuse it, I'm gonna need to. Oh yeah, that worked. Because you gotta realize this doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. You can be off probably with about an eighth of an inch, give or take, from side to side. The trim ring covers up quite a bit if needed. Oh. Let's just pull this up and lay it down just in case. And there you have it. You have a pretty clean edge that I can cut around. Maybe hard to see, however, there is a pretty good clean edge to follow. Now, it's not exactly perfect, but neither is the paper. It's close enough that I can get in there and make cuts. So now for the fun part, let's cut this hood. Now, a lot of you are wondering, probably, hey Aaron, how are you gonna cut this piece? What are you gonna use? And to that answer, fear. Fear with the knowledge that I could seriously screw this up, and I only really have one shot. So, no, but really, we're gonna actually use an angle grinder, the good old angle grinder. But for most of it, we're gonna try to use this nibbler. This is a metal shear. I practiced with it a little bit. It's my first time using it, and yeah, I think it's gonna work out great. So, we're going to basically cut sections for that nibbler to get into, and then nibble away. So I guess let's do it. Well, guess I need a new sanding disc. But there's our first section. That sanding disc absolutely just exploded in my face. That's why you wear goggles. Piece out of here. Did pretty good staying to the line. But now, we're gonna very carefully try to use this nibbler. All right, now, we'll have to sand that down a little bit, but that's working. All right, there's our centerpiece. Well, other than the corners, there's a hole. Well, there's the hole. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I've definitely done worse. I do have to fix this right now with a hammer and dolly. It lifted up. I did grind some of the edges down, but I need to go back and finish grinding it. But it's a hole, and we're gonna test fit the trim ring a little bit, and then fix the edges a little bit more, and then we'll get the trim ring planted and drill our holes, and then I don't know, I guess paint this thing. I guess after that we just have to paint it. All right, so I know for a fact I'm gonna have to trim this back a little bit. I actually cut it a little bit too small, which is a good thing. But before I do that, I need to figure out where my holes that I need to drill for the trim piece is gonna go. Dab the tip of each of these and try to get it nice and coated. And it looks about right. Looks about right. All right, we're actually gonna try this again because that did not work. I'm gonna put some, also, I wanted to make sure that I do it over tape. So we're gonna try it again, this time with a much darker color. All right, that's a little bit better. I can see just a hair more. All right, let's drill these holes. Okay, drills are holed, or holes are drilled, jeez. No, it's pretty damn close, but I'm gonna widen some of these up a little bit. All right, these two have to be widened because they are in the wrong spot slightly. All right, we are over here with our scoop. It has basically cured for about 2 days. Now, I am clear coating this basically because it's gonna be sitting out in the weather a lot. And I want to make sure it's even, and even when I did a lot of the acetone striping where I took off all of the black, it left some spots that need to be touched up. So I'm just gonna very lightly take some Scotch-Brite and scuff it up just a little bit. We're not going crazy, just enough for adhesion. Basically what I still need to do is file down a lot of these edges. I do need to drill out these 3 holes just a little bit more to the side, just barely, just so it sits a little bit more flush. File everything down, and then we can test fit it on the car. Luckily it's not like super heavy. This hood's actually just small. It's not bad. Alright, so it's been a while, but we finally got the hood fitted. In order to measure where our hood pins go, and I went ahead and just marked the hood pins with just a little bit of white paint, and they marked up right here. And so we're just going to give it a little bit of a punch for our start. And we should be able to start this. Alright, I found a hole saw that's the correct size, so we're going to use that because I don't think I'm going to find a drill bit that's big enough. So this is the scary part. Good thing it's going to be covered, but nothing more to do than to do it. Yep, nice and hot too. Lord help me, I got a race car. So I went ahead and drilled all the holes for the hood pin chrome pieces, or whatever they're called, the hood pin trim. I did drill them. I don't know if they did this from the factory. Part of me feels like they just screwed these little sheet metal screws in and called it good. But I did want to drill them so that I didn't warp the metal at all. I started with like 7/64 or something like that and went up to 1/8. Something like that, and I literally just laid this on how it looked good, took a punch and just kind of centered it, and the other side turned out just fine. So now it's time for this side. The first one's the hardest one to start, but once you get it started, the other ones seem to just go fine, especially when you drop the screw. It makes it a lot harder. And they're not the ones off the other hood. They are a totally different set, which works perfect for me. I definitely want to not overdo it on these, but there you go. And then we're going to take them right back out so we can paint this thing. So let's paint it. All right, the sun is kind of starting to go down and the wind is starting to pick up a little bit, but I need to get a coat of paint on this thing because I don't want it rusting overnight or at all. Now, this isn't going to be a good paint job. That'll be when we paint the whole car. It'll get repainted anyways, and body worked and whatnot. But I scuffed it up, and actually we're going to use a turbo can, good old turbo can, just flat black, and hope it turns out okay. Better. I mean, my other hood was pretty striped. Never used one of these, so we're going to try it together. Definitely a wide spray. Just getting a nice light coat first. Going one direction, and then we'll go the other direction on the other spray, alternating. I guess that's already a coat, so we'll let that tack up a little bit. Tip of the can looks like that. But we'll go ahead and spray a bunch, see how much it gets us. I have 2 cans, but honestly I think one's going to be more than enough. Oh, and I gotta spray the sides. Forgot about that. We'll get a few coats on this and then maybe put it on the car. As you can see, the sun is going down And we have a hood, and it ain't perfect. It's got some tiger striping. Took one turbo can to do 3-ish coats. I could probably do more, but I think for right now this is perfectly fine. It's better than what I had. In fact, that hood is actually way worse tiger stripe wise because the cans I was using had a tiny little spray, and this one at least kind of big fanned it out. I don't know, maybe there's a better way to do this, but honestly, painting matte out of spray can never works out. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and put all of the pieces on while this thing is still a little bit wet. You know, get on it. That's just gonna glue everything on. Perfect. But we're gonna put everything on so that I can put the hood on for tonight and try to get this Shaker hood on so that we can see it and look cool. Promises. Now this is all the stuff that people with nice cars don't do while their paint's wet. But here, well, here we do things just a hair different. Perfect timing. All right, and we've got our trim piece in. All right, there's our trim piece. Let's put this hood on. It's a little tacky. I gotta switch my hand.
So around the hinge.
Oh, yeah, that probably would have been smart.
Straight out.
Oh, let's see how close it is. I think it needs to come this way. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put the Shaker on because that's the important part. Let's find out if I put it in the right spot. Well, come on in here. All right, not gonna bolt it down just yet. And it's a good thing I stopped because the whole Shaker needs to move over. Did that just drop? Push. Back down. That's pretty damn good if you ask me. We'll put our nuts back on. Again, always tighten your nuts. Don't want them getting loose and losing them. Losing your nuts would be a bad thing. This is something I have been thinking about, dreaming about, just longing for, basically since I got this car. And last but not least, before I forget, we do have to hook up the vacuum line that goes to it, which just slides right in. Now we can close the hood on this beauty. Oh. Puts our hood pins in. That one is way too high. And other than the back corner, this thing lines up pretty damn well. Let's take a look at this. There we go. Finally, after almost a year and a half, actually, what are we in April? A year and 1 month of owning this car, we finally have a Shaker hood. Now I know what you're waiting for. Let's shake that hood. This is by far the only real test of this fine machine. Yeah, I can tell our hood's not exactly perfect. It sits up a little high in some spots, which it'll get even higher because of the wind, but whatever. Contact. Oh, look at that. That's shaking. And I can hear the flap working. I'd say that's an A+. let's show you from the inside. Come into my office here and watch that puppy shake. Perfect. All right, the shaker hood is installed. It's the next day. It's drier than it was. Of course, the wind's picking up right now. We're gonna go ahead and actually take this thing to a little cruise-in show, I don't know, some local show here down the street pretty much, and see how the shaker does. So let's do that. Hopefully we get to see some other cool cars. All right, we made it. It's really windy, so I'm just gonna show you some of the cars, but the shaker did great. So let's look at some cars. All right, and it is getting dark, but we are back home. The shaker did well. I've got to do some tuning now because honestly, there's not as much airflow at idle than there is with a completely open element, I believe. This thing runs a little bit richer now, and it's kind of funky. So I'm gonna have to mess with the idle. It's getting real dark. I don't know how well you guys can see, but we made it home. Honestly, this was a great project. I got it done a lot faster than I expected it to. To be honest, this only took about 2 days, really, and I could have done it in one if I had the time, but with painting and everything, that added a little bit more time. But coolness is here. I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. Shaker. Anyways, we're gonna end it off here for today, so thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe even. It really helps out. I'm almost to 1,000, and I know that maybe in a year or two, that'll be a funny statement to say. I don't know. Hope so, but thank you again, and we'll see you next time. I love you.